Hey guys, welcome to my second Q&A. Thank you for submitting the questions, and sorry it's been such a long time between the first and second Q&A. They'll be a lot more regular now. I've worked on the production quality a little bit on this one, and yeah, I'm really geared up to do a lot more content. So hopefully that content will help augment your programs. I'm really looking at the psychology, behavior, philosophy and personal development side of things, because I think that, you know, I'll create the training program for you, and if you see the training program through as best we can, I know things get in the way, logistics and things like that, but if we see the training program through, it will work. But who we have to become to see that training program through and not falter, that's a different challenge. And what I'm trying to do with the content is get to the nuts and bolts of the nitty gritty of the training side of things, but also really expand on the personal development side of things as well, which I think is equally important. So these questions have come in through the form that I asked for some questions to be submitted, so thank you for those. They've also come in from conversations and across social media. If I don't answer your question in this Q&A, I am recording a few more. So, well, I'll be doing it regularly now, so they will be answered in due course. So the first question for this Q&A is it important to enjoy my workouts? Which I think is a fascinating question, because there isn't going to be a right or wrong answer. And that's really my style of coaching, or my school of thought. There isn't really a right or wrong answer to a lot of these questions. There's just an optimized way to do things for you. And that's what I mean with this question. So is it important to enjoy exercise or to enjoy workouts in general? I would say for me personally, it isn't. And I'll tell you why. For me, I enjoy the process of exercise, in terms of I have faith in the long tail, that I know it's good for me. I've reasoned that out some time ago, and I know that I have faith in the protocols that I'm using, and if I don't enjoy one particular exercise, protocol, workout, regime, training block, it's all part of the bigger picture, and that comes in cycles, just like everything in life. There'll be some things you enjoy more than others, because what you have to worry about if you're seeking to enjoy every workout is that, are you only working on the things that you enjoy? So for example, and you could argue that there are predispositions to this. There's a test called the Braverman test, which talks about predominant neurotransmitters. So those with a predominant neurotransmitter for dopamine, they just want to feel good. So that's the CrossFit style, the sprinting style. You want to go into the gym or the training environment, throw things about, jump, push, pull, lift, and you know, as long as you exert yourself, that feels good. Other people need to know that they're on a structure, that their trainings have their own methodology and philosophy and you know, school of thought. Still others, they like to be a little bit more connected with the body. That's a little bit more down the yoga and Pilates route. So if you make somebody who's predisposed to enjoy yoga go to a CrossFit class before they're ready for it, the chances are they aren't going to enjoy that experience so much. If you take somebody who's dopamine pre-oriented and make them do nothing but stretching and yin yoga, they're going to feel like they can reason that was good for them, but they might not feel what they would feel from a bigger workout where you get that kind of sweat equity, you might call it, where you know you've trained. So to answer the question is that would be my preference. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to feel the workout, but I also know that I'm on a training protocol that is progressive. I'm making sure that my body is in that state of adaptation, making sure that my workouts are tracked and progressive overload. So what I feel the workout, but I'm also confident that I'm on an actual training regime that is making sense. I don't just go into the gym and want to feel a workout every time as a standalone event, because that lacks structure for me. For other people, that will be what they need. Equally, the yoga Pilates side of things was not my natural predisposition. That's something that I've rationalized is necessary. There's a yin and yang to life. It's not what I grew up enjoying. It's something I've come to enjoy. It's like an acquired physical taste. So what I mean then in the answer to the question is whether you need to enjoy each and every workout depends on your own relationship to challenge and discipline. You might know that you don't enjoy a workout, that you're even going to hate a workout because it's so tough. Tabata, for example, burpees, for example, sprinting. These are not enjoyable things in the moment. You could argue a very tough yoga class isn't enjoyable in the moment. And that's the point. We're trying to put the body through something physically challenging to enable the mind to have a few seconds of stillness. So it all depends on your relationship to exercise and where you are in the program. If you're coming into a program like this, or just your relationship with exercise is developing or has been negative in the past because you've been exposed to some authoritarian coaching or even back to PE teachers and things like that, which is quite common, then you might have built a bit of a strained relationship with exercise, and we need to stack the odds in your favor, and it would do you good to enjoy each and every workout. Now that might be a slight deviation from the most linear A to B, but if it keeps you on track because you actually enjoy it, that's enough of an intrinsic motivator, and what we might lose in a few percentage points of effectiveness or efficiency, we'll make that trade because we know that this is actually a productive training program and you're going to stick to it because you enjoy it. So that's a long-winded way of saying that it's not objectively necessary to enjoy every workout, but if you're not enjoying every workout, you need to find some fulfillment in the fact that you trust the process, and that if you zoom out to a medium to long-term view, there's some enjoyment in the fact that you are on a training protocol that is progressively overloading your body and you're seeing the results. So I hope that makes sense. It just depends on your relationship to exercise and where you are in the moment. The second question is, do I have to exercise every day? So I would say no, you don't have to actually exercise every day as in an actual workout, but we're human beings, we're human machines, we're survival machines. I think it's just started to hail outside. So we are, I apologise if you can hear that, but we're survival machines. Our bodies are survival mechanisms. If we look at ourselves like the human machine, we do need a level of activity every day. If we look back at how we would have evolved, to move, to forage, to hunt, those kind of things, to fight when we needed to flee when we needed to. These things require maintenance. If it was a car, you want the daily maintenance. If it was a factory machine, you want the daily maintenance. So whilst not every day has to be a training day, I would say as a human, the requirements are that every day is a movement day. That would be the best way to look at things. And that can be as easy as just making sure you get your steps for the day, you get your steady state cardio, you do a little bit of a moving mobility practice or a short yoga practice, but it's just making sure that you don't have big contrast to workout days and days of complete inactivity. That might get you the aesthetic benefits, but that's not necessarily the optimal way to do things from a health standpoint. So you want to make sure that you have a hand in making sure that you move every day and you get your step count and just articulate your joints, make sure that your spine's in good health, and that will minimize the chances that your actual workouts will lead to injury, because a lot of people get injured because their body is just not mobile enough. It's not that they push too hard in their workouts, but they get injured moving equipment around, or they get injured just going from very, very cold to hot in a big workout. So just making sure that you have daily activity is the best way to maintain overall health. But not every day has to be a workout day. The only caveat to that, I would say, is that if you're actually ill, that might be a day where you just kind of hibernate, duvet day, so to speak, movie day, and you literally just try to get well. And that would be the day that I would say, or the only type of day that I would say should be completely inactive. So the next question is, do you recommend a cheat meal? So this is another one of those concepts where it depends on who you are as a personality, which is why I don't really give a yes or no or right or wrong answer to a lot of questions. And this is why my product or my service is a bespoke service, a tailored service, because we have to take into account individual differences, and some of those are personality traits. So let's say there are two people, they're on the same training protocol, they train together, they're workout buddies, but they're two. In my experience, I would say you could, for this particular concept, you could say there are two types of people. One is somebody who needs a cheat meal. For them, it's something to look forward to. It's a stress relief. It's something that they feel like they've earned, and it really helps them stick to the program. So whilst it might be in the moment a deviation, it's often like, cheap food, milkshake, ice cream, burgers, whatever it is. That would seem like it's a step backwards, but not to them, because for them, that one cheat meal or cheat shift, like I discussed with many of you in our consultation calls, is And a cheat shift is more than a cheat meal. It's a 3 or 4 hour period, 4 6 hour period. And I think that's better, because if you only had one meal to choose, what if you wanted a meal and then you wanted an ice cream or something, or a milkshake, but that restaurant doesn't do that. So it just makes it a little bit less complicated to say 4 to 6 hours. So that person actually benefits from a cheat meal, because they reason to themselves, no, I deserve this meal, I'm going to eat what I want, and this is going to make me stick to the program more vehemently for the other 6 days, say it's once a week. The training partner, the other type of person, they benefit from what's called the Seinfeld principle, which is essentially, and it comes from Seinfeld's kind of writing process, where he would write jokes every day, and whether the jokes were good or not, he would just not break the chain. And that's really the whole concept. You just don't break the chain. So this type of person is intrinsically rewarded by stacking perfect days together. So breaking for a cheat day after 6 days on a new training program, or on any training program, would actually feel negative, would detract from what they're doing. So they might want to see how far of a run they can get. Like on the app we use, Trainerize, there's streaks, and that's intrinsically rewarding to build streaks. So some people really benefit from streaks in terms of perfect nutrition. Other people really benefit from letting off steam as a cheat meal. You just have to know where you are and who you are. And that's why I say that a lot of the achievement of our goals here in health and fitness is about personal development, psychology, looking inwards and figuring out what works for us. The one caveat to that, and I would say that, and I said this on the first Q&A, is that you want to see cheat meals coming. You can't be having unplanned cheat meals, because that's essentially just rationalizing and justifying a slip up. Don't beat yourself up about it, but you have to know the difference. You can't have impromptu cheat days. They have to be planned, and then that's how they qualify it as a legitimate cheat day. Okay, so the next question is, why does stress affect my exercise results? Which is a really poignant question, because it does. That's, again, if we look at two people on the same trajectory, training partners, or just two versions of the same person, one who's under a lot of stress is going to get less results, theoretically is going to get less results from the same training protocol, same nutrition, because they're compromised by that stress. Now that is not just an ephemeral, identity, I'm stressed. It's actually the physical effect of cortisol being, elevated levels of cortisol in the blood. Because what cortisol is really doing, if we look at it again from a standpoint of evolution or survival point of view, that cortisol is allowing for the body to enter a fight or flight mode or status. And that is really allowing the body to, you might think that's a good thing in terms of fight a little bit harder, run a little bit faster, that's good for workouts. Maybe, but not when it's chronic. If it's chronic, the price to pay for that is not like you become a superhero and you've always got these powers. What the body is actually doing is actually deregulating and deprioritizing other elements of human life that are more engaged in long-term survival and recovery, because the body's very clever and it's saying to itself, okay, well, if you're in a fight or flight scenario, I don't need to worry about long-term recovery, anti-aging, and all of these kind of recovery processes, because let's just figure out if you're going to get out of this situation first. I'm going to give you all my resources, or attribute all of our resources to this fight or flight scenario. If you get out of it, then we'll kick those recovery processes back in. But if you're constantly stressed, if you're constantly overwhelmed and compromised by stress and cortisol, those recovery processes are really deprioritized. And that's why you won't get the same benefits from the same training when you're in a very stressed standpoint. It's not to say you shouldn't exercise, but you need to calibrate it correctly. Exercise itself can become a stressor. You don't want to overstress the body with yet another stressor. Exercise is a positive stressor, but it's still a demand on the system that has to be recovered from. So if those recovery processes aren't fully active and fully engaged, you can see how exercise could be something that contributes towards overwhelm. So it's all about the right level of balance, making sure that you prioritize rest, making sure that there are some psychological and joyful personal development style things that enable you to do your bit in getting out of that fight or flight response. Could be, walking the dog, watching a comedy, going to the cinema, whatever it is for you. That that's going to be again personal. It depends what makes you feel good. And then on a more human level, anatomical level, cold shock proteins, heat shock proteins, meditation. These things are going to work for the vast majority of people because they're on a physiological level. So it's all about the right balance, and that's why creating the right lifestyle is important to your health and fitness results. Your health and fitness training or your training program doesn't begin and end in the gym. The gym is just where the work is done, but everything counts. Okay, so the next question is, I'm traveling soon, what workouts can I do in a hotel room? So, well, especially the way the world is at the moment, could get stuck in a hotel room for a while. So it's really important to know what you can do to adjust. So with a hotel workout, what I would say is that usually you're in a situation where you're on a business trip or you're on holiday. You might not necessarily want to spend doing spend the same amount of time exercising as you would in your normal life. I would say that on holiday, generally you want to prioritize activity, fun activities, hikes. It depends how you like to spend your holidays, but hikes, surfing, cycling, those kind of things. Those are life activities rather than out and out training. But it's nice to still have a hand in training, but it should just be shorter and sharper. This is where I recommend things like a 10-minute workout, where you would literally take a piece of paper, you would write down 10 body weight exercises. So things like burpees, squats, reverse lunges, planks, mountain climbers, squat jumps, wall sits, those kind of things, ab crunches, anything you can do with your own body weight, and you just set a 60-second timer for each exercise, and you do that for 10 minutes. So as many reps as possible. When you see AMRAP on the training protocols, so you're gonna hold a plank for as long as possible in that 60 seconds. You're gonna do press-ups for as many as you can in 60 seconds, and you're gonna just stack 10 exercises together. Do that for 10 minutes. Make sure that they're nice and diversified, and that's a great hotel workout. You can also do your mobility just on the spot. Usually they're carpeted, don't even need a mat. So that's a good sort of fallback position to take while you're away. If you want to do some resistance training, if you do find yourself in a situation where you don't have access to anything, you can usually use tables and chairs. You can use your suitcase, just stack it up with heavy things, and you can replicate push, pull, squat movements, deadlift movements, things like that, usually pretty easily and readily available. You just have to get creative. The next question is, why do my muscles hurt after exercise? So it's a good question. We call that DOMS. So whenever you hear somebody refer to in the fitness industry or just in the gym or something like that, and they say, I've got DOMS, that means that's an acronym for delayed onset muscular soreness, which is the aching you get from exercise or from the repair process of all the microscopic damage that resistance training does. So why do we get that? We get that it's an inflammatory response, it's an adaptive response to the microscopic damage we're doing to ourselves. Deliberately, in a good way. It's just a natural process. What we're doing there is sending the signal to the body that we've done some damage, we're going to do it again, so you better get bigger and stronger. And the body does, as long as we give it the right amount of rest and recovery and nutrition. So the question really then, I guess it depends on where you are in the training protocol. In the early stages, you're going to get that anyway. Even if you're an Olympic athlete and you take a month off and then you come back, you're going to get that. Even if you're a professional footballer and then you go and train 12 rounds of boxing, you're going to get it, because anything that represents enough of an adaptation, enough of a new movement, new muscles being stimulated in a new way, you're going to get that adaptation because you're asking more of your body than you were previously, and that's a natural reaction. So to expand on the question, should you train while you feel like that? I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, if it's less than 4, you can train on slightly aching muscles. Any more than that, then there's no point. You're just doing damage on damaged muscles. I would take a fallback position, just extend your steady state cardio, go for a walk, and allow the body to recover. This extreme DOMS is going to last for the first 2 weeks of the program, and that's sometimes enough to put people off of, if they didn't have a coach, they go to the train. Can you imagine this cycle? They go to the gym, they ache, because sometimes you can act like crazy. So you really ache, and then you say to yourself, well, that didn't work. So you lay off for a few weeks, and then you go back to the gym, another workout, and it happened again, and you start to rationalize to yourself, oh, every time I work, it just hurts. Every time I work out, it just hurts. So exercise isn't for me. I've seen that happen to people. So, you just have to see that through for 2 weeks. Don't continue to train on the really heavy muscles and the really aching muscles, but you will get that, and you'll get that many, many times. It's not just, like I said, it's not just the first time you get into exercise, it's any time where the program significantly adapts to something new. In terms of all things being equal and still feeling like that, say you're 6 weeks into exercise and you've started, okay, here's a scenario, you're 6 weeks into a training protocol and you've started running a bit more as well, and now your legs are aching all the time. So that's just an indication that one, maybe the additional exercise is too much, so now we need to rest a little bit more, we need to change the training day order a little bit more, or making sure that you're getting enough nutrition. So really aching, or that you're stressed and a little bit compromised by stress, and that's that cortisol effect again. So if you're getting really tired, aching muscles quite a way into your training protocol, that's not necessarily a good sign. It's not a bad sign as such, it's an indicator. It's a signal from your body telling you, hey, we need a little bit more rest, we need a little bit more nutrition maybe, something is up, we need a little bit of fine tuning. So that's the answer to that question. It's always going to be there in the early stages. After about 2 weeks, it turns more into an awareness than an actual pain. And if you're getting it once you're conditioned, that's an indication that there are some other lifestyle factors telling you they need looking at. So we have a question here. What are your thoughts on a longer fast, like a water fast? Okay, so that's an important distinction. So when we look at intermittent fasting in our training protocols, those are performance-based intermittent fasting protocols. So we're looking at 12-hour fasts, 14-hour fasts, 16-hour fasts. Beyond that point, if there was a scale, you're getting a little bit more into the physiological, more than the behavioral. So if we're then looking at fasting for longer than 16 hours, we're kind of not looking at recomposition and performance as the primary objective anymore. We're looking then at health. Not that the 16-8 is unhealthy, but it's more evenly skewed towards a health initiative and a results-based recomposition tool. So if we're looking at 24-hour fasts, 48-hour fasts, 72-hour fasts, I would say beyond 72 hours is more in the realm of extreme reset. If you're looking at that under the guidance of an integrative health professional, or some kind of religious or spiritual practice. Whereas I think the realm of 24 hours to 72 hours is reasonably normal and tolerated. You don't want to start at the high end of that. You want to start, if you are going to do a water fast, you would look at your first 24-hour water fast, and you would approach it slightly differently than your intermittent fasting for performance. You'd want to make sure that you didn't introduce anything. So no black coffees, no teas, no herbal drinks. The only thing arguably you would have is electrolytes, just to make sure that you don't have headaches, dizziness, those kind of things. But any other drinks or foods are going to do something. They're going to switch on some gene or some enzyme. There's going to be some process that's activated. And that is what we're trying to avoid with a 24-hour plus fast. What we're looking to do there is really have a nice reset and allow processes that kick in when there isn't that digestive system running. If you imagine closing that app on a phone, digestive system shuts down, and then other recovery processes that don't have their opportunity to work while we're digesting food kick in. It's very, very good, I would say, mindfulness as well, but it is different to health and fitness. It's more of a health intervention. So if you are going to do a 24-hour fast, you would want to approach it differently, and you would want to make sure that you wind down your training that week, I would say 3 to 4 days before you do your 24-hour fast, especially if it's your first 24-hour fast, because if you imagine that you enter a 24-hour fast with a lot of microscopic damage in the muscles, that's going to need repairing. The body's going to be asking why it's not getting repaired. It's going to be doing that through hunger, and it's just going to make the 24-hour water fast a lot harder than it needed to be if you just tapered down your training. Caffeine is another one. So if you are doing your first 24-hour water fast and you suspect that you have become a little bit reliant on coffee, I would say maybe do those two things separately, because you aren't going to know whether if you start to get headaches and feel quite terrible, you don't know whether that's how your body's feeling in the fast, because it's maybe releasing other toxins, or it's just the way your body is feeling, or whether that's a caffeine withdrawal. So I would say maybe those are two different things. Both very healthy. I would recommend anybody who drinks caffeine regularly, I drink a lot of coffee, to cycle off of coffee once every 1 to 2 months for 2 days, just to allow the receptors to reset. And what you'll find if you do that is that a little bit of coffee will go a lot further once you've had that 48 hours off. Not going to lie, it's not a pleasant experience. If you've been with caffeine for a long time without a break, you're probably going to get pretty thumping headaches. It's not going to be too pleasant, but it's one of those things where I would say, looking at a year, you would want a couple of those in the year, a couple of 48-hour periods without caffeine in a year. And if you are looking at water fasts, the way I do it is that I do one 24-hour water fast once a month, and I do a quarterly 48-hour fast. Currently, I don't do 72-hour fasts. I might do that if I was traveling more and in the countryside and things like that, where you can completely switch off. But I think, you know, that's a tough one. And beyond that is absolutely admirable. I will say, from anecdotal experience, this is going to sound a bit strange, but once you get 40 hours plus, there is a feeling that you might describe as euphoria. Really sort of happy feeling for no apparent reason other than the fact that you're doing the fast, and you get a lot of creative thoughts. You get a lot of insight when you do that. So it's worth having a look at. Do your research and see if it's for you. The most important thing is to time it well. You don't want to be doing it when you're stressed by something else, when you've got a lot going on. Ideally, you take a cabin in the woods. It's a great time to take a cabin in the woods or something of that nature, an Airbnb, because you don't have to worry about food. And so it's just very simple. You just book it, go to a nice environment, especially if it's your first time. Tell people you're doing it for obvious reasons, but you might want to isolate yourself a little bit and just have a little bit of you time and creative thought. But yeah, I hope these answers have helped, guys. I love the Q&A format. It allows me to elaborate and really try to draw in the bigger picture, you know, because we're all on training programs at any given time. But I think, you know, zooming in and out in terms of timelines and looking at it from a personal development standpoint and a psychological standpoint is really useful, and I find is really fun to do. So please do continue to submit the questions, and I'm working on some creative content as well in terms of, you know, personal development content and psychological content that is going to apply to all of us. Things that just work and things that help us calibrate what's going to work for us. So yeah, those are coming. Thank you, guys.